let's take a look at this great Unclean one. So as you see here, we've got him kind of magnetized up. Kit's pretty easy to magnetize. We've got a couple of different head options. We got the Rotigus head, snaps right in. We've got the regular great Unclean one head, snaps right on. The bell. And we got a little dagger. So everything fits on pretty good. This is actually just push fit. He's hollow. It's actually easier to paint, I think, without having him on the base if you're going to do this style of painting. All right, here's the paints I used. I used the green fluoro for Vallejo, charred brown, Vallejo Model Air. I used Seraphim, Sepia, Casadora Yellow, Carroburg Crimson, Fuegan Orange, all GW washes. Gorthor Brown, Strong Tone Army Painter wash, Drucci Violet. I apparently put that in some real paint. Got some Armageddon Dust, Tank Green, Ancient Stone or Ancient Bone. I can't read it anymore. And we've got this. I can't read any what that says. It's a purple from Miniature Paint. And we've got the Nihilux Oxide and two big old things of paint from the craft store. My ghetto setup, it's just a board, a table. Look at that. Yeah, ghetto setup in my kitchen. Alright, I should warn you, this is how I paint my Nurgle and Death Guard. This is not for amazing quality, this is for decent looking on the board. This is also a very fun paint scheme. I love painting this paint scheme. So what we're going to be doing, the first step is slathering the model in Seraphim Sepia. So get your big old brush out and we'll just go ahead and begin. Just make sure that you're getting all the cracks and crevices when you're painting this. It's got a lot of holes in his body right here. You just want to make sure that you get that wash right inside of there. Don't stop when you're doing this, because if not, you'll leave watermarks. If you're magnetizing it like this, go ahead and put paint right over where that magnetizing is, just because you don't want to have any gaps and weird paint licking. And we'll be back in a couple of minutes to see what it looks like when it's completely done. And then we got to watch some paint dry. So we'll be back in a little bit. Here's what he looks like all sepiaed up. And we're going to wait for him to dry. I'm going to work on this other stuff while we're doing that. If you're magnetizing, your light can act as a holder for these. A couple other things I'm painting up along with these guys. They're going to need a long time to dry. So drying time, here we come. Alright, so he's had a bit to dry. Looks like we missed a couple of sections here. No big deal. On the next wash, we'll catch everything that you missed on the first one. You just try to do your best to get what you can. So we're going to start with the next wash, which is going to be Casadora Yellow. Same thing as before. We're just going to put a liberal amount on. We actually want this yellow to be pretty good, so you can be liberal as you want on it. And we'll be back when we get the next coat on. Alright, here he is done. Here's more of the bits of the Greater Unclean one drying. He's drying, got a Scrivener, and I'm also doing up a Feculent Normal as well in the same scheme. So, the next step that we'll be doing after these guys dry, which will probably be tomorrow because it's late here. The next is we're going to be taking Carroburg Crimson and we're going to go in all of the areas that I want dark, and we'll work on that tomorrow. Here's what we got so far. Doesn't look super great, but that's because this is the step where the magic happens. So you've done your two washes, everything's completely dry. You wanted to make sure you got all the tiny little holes and places where you might have missed. The next step is we're going to be taking Carroburg Crimson, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using our big shade brush to get into some of these larger areas, but we're going to just be darkening up things to make sure that the shadows are getting darker and darker, and this is going to create that contrast. So for instance, I'm going to take this smaller brush here that's not really a shade brush, but what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to start shading in some of these areas here, just to really make them a lot darker. And you want to take your time. It's actually kind of cathartic and fun doing this one. It's like more like a watercolor almost, taking your time and making sure that you're getting all these really dark areas. You're going to exaggerate a little bit and go outside of some of these areas that you've already got dark from the wash coming in. But you're just going to take your time going around the entire model, and you're going to make it much more contrasting. Take your time, have fun. This is where the fun process starts here. Here's a little bit of the in process. So you see that I'm just going underneath where it's dark, creating shadow. I'm hitting these little tubules and nodules. You can just wipe off if you get a little on. Just want to make sure that you're bringing up all that contrast. So you can see the difference between this and this. Now this is the first level of contrast that we're going to be making with this dark area. So after this step, the next step is to actually do orange even darker in these areas, and you'll see how that really makes this paint scheme pop. All right, we'll be back after the whole thing's done. And we've got him finished up with all of the Caribou Crimson shading. Now I'm going to show you the Feculent Normal, which I'm also working on, and you can see how big of a difference this has made on the look of the model. And we're going to be increasing that shade here, going into those recesses on the next step with Fuegan Orange. And that will be occurring in a little bit. You'll get to see what that looks like. There has been a casualty. A little bit of a paint pot flip over. We're all right though. I got all of his extra bits worked on up to the same point as the Great Unclean one. Here's what this big boy looks like now. Now, it'll actually work on other types of models. So I do my whole Death Guard army with that. We've got the Narwhal started. You can really see that shading really making it pop. And then I can actually even bring it in to work on smaller models. It's actually a lot of fun to paint this way. And the next step is to play with Fuegan Orange. So the Fuegan Orange is just going to go into the recesses just to make these a little bit darker. We're going to just darken up those dark spots, and it'll really make this guy pop. So we'll be back after a little bit. We've got the orange on now, so we can see how that's really pulled out those shades and shadows. We've also gone and completed that on all of the magnetized parts as well, so you can see how they look together. Here's the Rotigus head. And Rotigus staff. Everything matches, everything looks really great right now. The next step that we're going to be doing is doing some really selective dry brushing with a bleach bone color. But these guys need to fully dry before I can get to that point. We'll see you after we get all dried. Here's the same paint scheme applied all the way up to the same spot on the Great Unclean one with a smaller model. And with a terrain piece. And so we'll be finishing both of these as well. The next step, I'm going to be using miniature ancient stone. We're going to be using a small dry brush to just get the details and highlights to really pop. We're going to make sure that we don't get too much paint on our brush, because we definitely don't want this to look at all cloudy or shoddy at all. If you have too much paint on your brush, you're going to make it look chalky. So you want to get almost every bit of paint, and then you can go ahead and start in a place where it's not going to make too big of a difference, and you can always add more to it. So always start off light, and then you can go back and really hit those areas a little bit harder later. So we're going to take this throughout the whole model, and we'll be back in a little bit. We're all set with the dry brush. You can see how it's made everything pop. Looks super good on these weapons. What we're going to be doing next is we're going to go over some of the tentacles some of the intestines and things like that. We're going to be using this purple from, I don't know what it says, Ekimosi? I can't read it. Miniature. It's purple. It's a light purple. We're going to be mixing the that purple with a little bit of white. Let's see, yeah, right about that mixture right there. And we're going to be painting on the tentacles and intestines and things like that. Not all of them. We want to leave some of them regular, but these are miniature paints, so they're actually already watered down for airbrush. But we're going to go in and just hit some tentacles that we want to get to be a different color for accent. We got all of our little accents of purple done. Next, we're going to be doing the cloth on the Greater Unclean One's butt and on Rotigus's head. And for that, we're going to be using this tank green from Vallejo Model Air. I really like to use airbrush paints to paint with because they're really smooth and I really like how they go on. I don't have to water them down really at all, which is good for me. So we're gonna go ahead and just paint his pants green. And while that green is drying, you'll need to do 2 coats, by the way. While the green is drying, we're gonna go ahead and get into that ancient bone one more time. And we're gonna go through and highlight all of these pustules and things that we wanna get to pop a little bit more on him. And so we're just gonna go through and make sure we hit everything. Just make everything look really cool and pop. All right, the white's all being picked out now. You can see that's what it looks like now. We're gonna go and we're gonna use some washes on the purple and the green. For the green, we are going to be using Agrax, and for the purple, we are gonna be using some Drucci Violet. So all that's going to happen here is we're just going to wash up those couple of areas. So I'll go ahead and grab him and we'll start the process. All right, little tentacle here. Just going to use a little bit of wash, give it a little variation of color, and that's it. And you're just going to go around and do that to your tentacles, and then for the green, you're going to just go over the green with the Agrax. The purple's just all wash. You know, I might take a little bit of this and put it deep in these recesses in here as well. So just giving a little extra kick of color. Not much. I want these to be just accent colors, the way I do my Death Guard. All right. Next, Hunter Green, or the green. Next bit here is where it gets to be a little scary to do this. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be flicking paint onto our model. I know, we just did this. Now we're going to get a big old brush. We're going to flop paint on stuff. This part's the scary part. I'm using Charred Brown, another Vallejo Air Model Air, Game Air, whatever. We're gonna just put a little out there, and then it's time to get a little dirty. Move everything you're not working on far, far away from what's going on. I'm going to be taking a bit from the Great Unclean One, and I'm gonna put some paint on this, and then I'm going to just flick it. It's giving me some texture here, and that's all I want to do. Give it a little texture, give it a little grossness. I'm gonna go ahead and do that in everything. You want to go more from the bottom when you're doing this, so it looks like it's kind of rotting from the bottom. So when you do this, make sure that you're not spraying it from the top. Try to come from the bottom. We've got the speckling done on him now, so you can see kind of what that looks like. I'll give an example of what his head looks like right here so far. A couple of other pieces. You can see I went from the bottom and did the speckling. The next step is going to be highlighting the green that we have on here, and we're going to go through and we're going to hit all of the things we really want white, like these teeth. I want to get those a little bit whiter, not because in reality they'd be whiter, but just because I don't like to see the white with flecks on them. So I'm going to go through and hit some of this stuff, and then as soon as this wash dries, we're going to go on to highlighting the cloth. In the last step, we're going to be taking a little bit of white, the ancient stone, and then a little bit of that tank green that we used before on both of these models, or not both of the models, but we're just going to get a nice highlight color, not too off of the original tone, and then we're just going to do some line highlighting just on the edges here. So just going to go along here like this and hit these edges. And that's it for this step. You should come out with something a little like that. That's pretty much it. We're going to go ahead and hit the head of Rotigus the same way, and then I'm going to come in and I think I'm going to highlight these skulls that I washed over just a tad, and then we'll be on to the final step. Alright, just going to re-highlight those skulls that were on him. I stuck my arm in paint, that's cool. And this is the other skulls in back here. I'm just giving a real light hit on the top. No big deal. I actually lied. There is one more step that we are going to be taking for this journey into painting, and that's this. We've got the Scourge here, and I've been using this color in the rest of my guard army, Death Guard army. And what I'm going to be doing is I painted these, this is a Vallejo, sorry, I didn't, a Vallejo model color green fluoro. And what I want to do with this is I've base coated this thing white, all the flames on this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go on to that and we're just going to paint this in. This is a really thin paint already, so you won't have to do much. I just like to have this color throughout the army as a little popper. So you can totally ignore this step. Paint this whatever color that you guys want. I want it to kind of look like a washed out green nasty smoke. So that's what I'm doing here. And then this will dry, and then we'll be on to the last bit. The last step here for these guys. Time for the last step, everybody. Nylox oxide. We are going to water it down because I feel like this is real strong. So I got a little bit of water in here. And this is just for accenting whatever metals that we have. We're going to basically be hitting the chainmail area of the Great Unclean one, any metal rivets and stuff. You know what? I need a lot, so I'm just going to do that. So it's not like you're washing the whole thing with this. You can just be a little, just putting a little bit of color in here. Notice I didn't even do anything to this chainmail. I washed it super dark, so I wouldn't have to do anything. It's already the color I want. I'm just going to add a little bit of this to the bottoms to make it look like it's corroding a little bit more. And we're going to do that for all of the weapons that he has. I don't think there's any other metals on him exactly. So we're going to go, I'm going to hit all the rest of these metals and then we'll be back. Finish with the Nylox oxide. He's pretty much ready to go. I'd start working on his base now, but somebody named Aron forgot the base at home, so I won't be able to do that today. So what I'll do, I'm using some really cheap paint from the craft store. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a little bit of these two paints. And I'm gonna make a gray just because I don't have a gray that I really like. And we're gonna actually paint this model's base. So I'm gonna do a gray stone here. And so we're gonna paint this all gray. This guy's base is now painted. I'm gonna be taking some Armageddon dust because this is how I started basing my army. So I usually have some gray and some Armageddon dust. So I'm just gonna push it up into the crack. This isn't even dry yet, but it's all right because of the way this paint works. Leave it a little gloppy, otherwise it just looks like you painted the base the brown color, which is not what you want. So leave it a little bit gloopy so there's that texture. You'll thank yourself for it. Next, we're gonna let that dry. And after that, we're gonna dry brush both the gray and the base color there with the ancient stone again. Finally got the base to dry for the most part. We're gonna actually start dry brushing now. I just do a real simple light dry brush again, just to pick up some of the details. So just to make it pop a little bit, I'm gonna just dry brush a little bit on here. That's pretty much it. Now that it looks like stone and dirt, we're going to go ahead and do the sides real quick. I'm going to use Gothor Brown, and we are going to just hit this rim of this base. If you leave any white spots, this doesn't cover very well, so you'll probably need to do 2 coats. But if you have any white spots where you didn't catch any at the lip of the base with the dust, you can go ahead and just run the paint up a little bit, because that's how we do. He was able to get a second coat on the base. I actually put a little tuft on there to finish off that base. Looks pretty good. I'll give you another shot of old Rotigus. A little better light. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. It was actually a lot of fun to do. This paint scheme is very fun. It's very easy, but it takes a long time because of drying times. Other than that, it's actually really fast. Like, the amount of time you spend painting is not very much. It's just the drying times. Everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you like, please hit that like button. Subscribe, check out our Patreon page. We got some really cool stuff there. This is Josh with Cool Guys Nation. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you on the table.